I don't care. It don't matter what he say. Who is he?
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily podcast on fantasy basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast, brought to you by Fantrax and Basketball Monster. Today's Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast is also brought to you by Eric Winterstein. So if you want to be a sponsor like Eric Winterstein, head to patreon.com/redrock_bball. My name is Josh Lloyd and you can find me on Twitter at redrock_bball. Same on Instagram and facebook.com/redrockbasketball. We're going to talk about Thursday's action. Thankfully, there wasn't as much shenanigans as what we had on Wednesday. No non-injury related shutdowns, but there were a couple of injuries we do need to talk about. So review all of that action and then preview an 8-game Friday in the NBA. So
let's get to it.
Thank you, Mr. Bolton. Let's get into it. Let's get stuck straight into it. As Michael said, let's go to the monstrous line of the night, and it is, of course, once again, Russell Westbrook, who had one more triple-double just to add to the pile. On a night where we had 3 triple-doubles, Russ was the best. 24, 10, and 16. 4 triples. He had a steal. He was 8 of 17 from the field. He hit all 4 of his free throws. And there was that danger a while ago of the assists dropping under 10 per game. He averages 16.3 assists in his last 3, 12 per game over the last 7 games. He is really focusing on getting these assists. Not that I'm not saying that he's padding stats or anything like that, but he has made a real effort to get his teammates involved. I suppose it helps getting guys like Victor Oladipo back as well to get those assist numbers back up. But Russ, I've said it many times that we saw that start of the season where his rotisserie value wasn't necessarily very high, and maybe it's not all that high anyway, but in terms of just overall 8 category value over the last 2 months, he's the number 1 ranked player. He's the number 1 ranked player over the last month. He's the number 1 ranked player over the last 2 weeks. He's the number 1 ranked player over the last week. Harden is still number 1 over the course of the season, but Russ has been dominating this second stretch of the year, and he's clearly that number 1 head-to-head guy over that stretch, but that field goal percentage is a real issue. And if you are in a rotisserie league and you own Russell Westbrook, where are you placed? Where are you sitting? Have you been able to overcome the deficit in field goal percentage that you have from owning Russ? And if you're in a 9-cat league, how are you going overcoming the field goal percentage and turnovers for rotisserie league? I'd be interested to know how all those numbers break down. But Russ with another monstrous performance, because that's why we call it the monstrous line of the night. The waiver wire line of the night and the young gun of the night are the same person. It's Taurean Prince from the Atlanta Hawks. Taurean looked really good out there. 16 and 6 for Prince. He hit 2 triples. He had an assist and he had 4 block shots, which obviously gives his value a significant boost. It's really tough to work out what's happening here with Prince. Let's look at his last 4 games. He played 9 minutes. He played 31 minutes. He played 10 minutes. And he played 29 minutes in today's action. So in terms of consistent role, there's not one there. And that's the concern with looking at him. Now, we're seeing a lot from him. We're seeing the shot blocking really come into play. He's shooting the ball extremely well. He's at 55% shooting over the last 8 games when he's just a 41% shooter for the course of the year. He's hitting threes at 58% in those 8 games and actually hitting them at 48% over the last month, which is phenomenally good. But he started off the season shooting so poorly there. Has he improved? Of course he has. Has he improved to that level? Probably not quite to that sort of a level, but Taurean's doing some good things. Now, what we need to look at is we saw a lot of, or towards the end of this game especially, we saw a lot of lineups with him at the 4 and Paul Millsap at the 5. We saw this being a game where Ersan Ilyasova's minutes were somewhat limited, and Thabo Sefolosha only played 15 minutes. So there were more minutes opening up on the wing and in the front court for Prince. And that's not necessarily going to be the case on an every night basis. He's going to play every game. I'm pretty confident about that. But in terms of how many minutes he's going to see in those games, I'm just not 100% sure that he is going to be pushing even mid-20s. We might see high teens, maybe low 20s. But if we look at what's happened recently, it's really hard to get a handle on. As I said, 9, 31, 10, 29. There is absolutely no pattern with that, and it does make it hard to get a read on him. He's not a 12-team league guy at this point. He's probably not even a 14-team league guy. but the numbers he's putting up at the moment are obviously impressive, and he gives us something to look forward to, and a really interesting keeper or dynasty guy for next season, especially with Tabo and Timmy Hardaway both being free agents. Same with Ersan Ilyasova and Mike Muscala. So they're all roles that he can fill in for this team at the 3 and the 4. And with the way that he's playing down the stretch here, you could almost see him... Oh, shit, I forgot. Paul Millsap's a free agent as well, so we don't know what's happening with Millsap. There are going to be roles potentially opening up for him. And with the way he's playing, maybe that makes the Hawks not as desperate, I guess, to keep all those guys, as he's going to be able to fill himself into a bigger role next season. But it was a great performance from Torian in this game for the Hawks, even though that they did lose. He's your waiver wire line of the night, and he's also your young gun of the night. Let's move on to the dud of the night, and it is Aaron Gordon of the Orlando Magic. Could have given it to pretty much anyone on the Magic, but it goes to Azza. 6 points and 3 rebounds. He had just the one assist, an anti-triple 1, 0-3, 0 steals, 0 blocks, 2 of 7 from the field, and 2 of 4 from the line. A really disappointing performance from Az. Only 21 minutes he played. Now, this is coming off a stretch of 10 consecutive games where he scored in double digits, so he was obviously providing in that area. But he hasn't been doing hardly anything in the defensive numbers. You'd hope to be able to get a triple 1 out of him, a steal, a block, and a 3 a game. That's not happening. He hasn't blocked a shot in the last 5 games, which is a little bit frustrating, obviously. He is not a must-own player at this point of the year. If we were in January and he was doing this, I'd say, yeah, let's just keep holding him. But at this point of the year, get rid of him. If you need to move on from Gordon to activate someone for tomorrow, to add someone for tomorrow, to add someone who plays a Friday, Saturday back-to-back set, someone who plays a Saturday, Sunday back-to-back set, if you need to move on from Gordon, consider it something that you absolutely should do. He's not providing a brilliant top 50 value that makes you say, oh, I can't drop this guy. Now, if you're in a 16-team league or an 18-team league, then who you get off waiver wire in getting 2 games out of them might not even be equivalent to 1 game of Gordon. So that move is not going to be as incisive or as necessary. But in a 10-team league, shit, of course. In a 12-teamer, yeah, do it. Move on. Grab someone else. And if need be, Gordon might still be around and you grab him on a day that suits, but he's not doing enough to make him into a must-own player, I don't think. Anyway, all right, that's all of that action done. Before we get into the review of the games, a couple of injury notes. I talked about Dwyane Wade's elbow yesterday. I said I reckon it's going to cost him weeks. I don't remember. I think I might have said that might be the last we see of Dwyane Wade. It is. He's done for the rest of the regular season. I don't know if I said that. Maybe I did, but regardless, I said that I think we're going to be looking at weeks for Wade. He is done. Get rid of him. What this does is it opens up opportunities. I think the biggest opportunity or biggest increase in opportunity goes to Denzel Valentine, who'd been playing 25 or so minutes a night anyway, but now he's got a chance to play 30. Handle the ball a little bit more, spot up outside of Butler and Rondo, which is going to help him too, and he can be a top 100 player in 30 minutes. I firmly believe that. So he's not a must-own 12-team guy now, but with the Bulls playing tomorrow and on Saturday, back-to-back coming up, grab him and see what happens with it, because I think there's a real opportunity here for him. The other guy who is going to absorb a lot of Wade's usage is Nikola Jokic. Yes, they play different positions, but he's going to get the ball more. He's going to be able to do more driving, which is where he's not a spot-up shooter. He can hit threes at decent rates. We've seen at times in his career, but he's not a spot-up shooter. He's a guy who can drive and create, and he's going to get more of that opportunity with Wade out. So Jokic should be owned, and Valentine's a guy to definitely consider. With Wade out for the Timberwolves, Nemanja Bjelica, he is out for the regular season as well. He is done. So his role, which was pushing up into the high 20s in minutes and close to 30 a night, regardless of what was happening with Gorgie Jeng, that's not happening at the moment for Nemanja. He's done. So we saw in that game where he exited with the foot injury that Shabazz Muhammad stepped up and played those big minutes. And I think that's going to be the case. If you want points, if you need to stream in for points, Shabazz is going to be your man. He's not going to do much else. He'll give you some offensive rebounds and probably some above average rebounds for a guy that could be shooting guard eligible on some sites. And that could help, but he's not going to do a huge amount else. He'll score and he'll do it at a fairly high percentage. It doesn't make him a must-own guy. It makes him a great stream target for a guy who can drop 18 a night. And let me rephrase that. He won't drop 18 a night, but he can drop 18 on any given night. He's not going to do it every single night, but that's a great stream option for points. Who on the waiver wires out there where you go, I've got a fairly good idea that I know that he can score 18. There are other guys out there on the wire that you just think there's no chance of them getting. I don't know why I'm picking 18 as my number, but There are guys out there, Brandon Rush, look, he's just not scoring 18. But Shabazz Muhammad, when he gets going and the minutes are there, that can absolutely happen. So have a look at Shabazz, see if he is available, but use him judiciously. See how that all goes. All right, let's move now in. Oh, didn't mean to push that button for you guys watching on the video. Let's move now into the games and talk about them in a little bit more detail. There were 6 of those games on Thursday. The first one, a blowout victory to the Oklahoma City Thunder as they beat down the Toronto Raptors in Toronto. A huge win for the Thunder. Andre Robertson with a very nice game, 13, 4, and 3 with 2 steals, and all of a sudden he it's like he's learned how to shoot. It's weird. We hadn't really seen this before, but again, 75% here from Robertson. I don't trust it, but your defensive numbers, the occasional three-pointer, you can get that out of Robertson, and that can be obviously a useful player on a streaming basis. Vic Oladipo was great again, 23, 5, and 2 in just the 27, but these guys didn't need to play many minutes because it was such a blowout. Speaking of not many minutes, Steve Adams played 25. He had 10 and 5 with a steal and a block. He's outside the top 150 for the last month. He is far from a must-own player. Yeah, you need some field goal percentage and some rebounds. Maybe that works and you hold on, but otherwise, I wouldn't be considering him must-own. Doug McDirt, just the 16 minutes, 6 points and 2 triples. He's not good. There is no reason to own him outside of 20-team leagues, I don't believe. While Alex Abrines is back ahead of him in the rotation. He played 20 minutes and scored 10. Enes Kanter, 14 and 7. The minutes are annoying, and you know that if he got 30 minutes or so, that he'd be able to really crack on and put together some really big performances. It's just not going to happen. So just be thankful for what you get in his limited playing time. Taj Gibson, 24 minutes for Taj, 10 and 4 with 2 steals. Now, he's not a must-own guy, of course. He's not even really approaching that, but it just continues to frustrate me with the Thunder why he always, he's just not getting enough minutes. I think that Taj should be playing 30 minutes on this team. Now, there's always been factors associated with it. In this game, it was a blowout, so he was limited. In the last game, he had foul trouble. In the game before, he had a hip problem. So we've never really seen an opportunity for him to get these minutes since he's been starting. He's someone to monitor for the deeper leagues. Even if he gets 30, I don't think he's a must-own guy. But it's weird to me that he keeps being limited to these lower 20 minutes when realistically, he should be playing high 20s, 30 minutes at least, because he is so much better than these guys like Jeremy Grant and Domantas Sabonis. For the Raptors, it wasn't a good night for them. Just the 17 minutes actually for Jonas Valanciunas, 7 and 5 with 2 blocks. His numbers, he's been inside the top 120 over the last 2 weeks, despite the limited minutes, but this sort of thing is what frustrates you. He's definitely not a must-own. He's also not a 100% must-drop sort of a player. But, we're seeing he had those 2 30-minute games, and since then it's been back to the 21 or 22. And he occasionally has the double-double. He has the Enes Kanter type production, but I don't fully trust him to do that as much as I do Kanter. DeMar DeRozan had 22, 3, and 3, 29 minutes. Again, these guys didn't play many minutes, while Corey Joseph had 11, 2, and 6, a nice bounce back. I continue to like what I see from Delon Wright. 20 points. Let me try again. I always get my tongue tied on a Friday. It's Friday here. 20 minutes, 10 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, and 2 steals for Delon. Continuing to play minutes either at point guard or on the wings as well, especially with DeMario Carroll continuing to be a flaming bucket of shit, really. Delon's intriguing for your 16-teamers, probably at this point. That's about it. As for Carroll, 2 points in 15 minutes, and he looked terrible as usual. And Serge Ibaka, really, really horrible at the moment. 10 points in 27 minutes, struggling in terms of his production. I've got no idea what's going to happen with him next season. Yeah, he's been handy for Toronto, but they've been bad, and we don't know what he's going to be like with Kyle Lowry, so it's really hard to evaluate in a free agency situation for Toronto without Lowry there, but his numbers are dipping. I still think you're holding on to Serge in every league, basically. Norm Powell went back to the bench. He had 13 and 4. It wasn't the most efficient night from Norm, but still got on the board and scored a little bit. But obviously his value, it's not going to be near the 12-team league level. Let's talk Utah and Cleveland. The Jazz led by, once again, Rudy Gobert, 20 points, 19 rebounds, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. 77% shooting. It's really hard to complain about anything that Gobert is doing. Really, he's been fantastic. There was no Rocket Rodney Hood, so with Rocket out, Joe Ingles started and played 36 minutes, 12, 4 and 4 with 2 threes and a steal. Now, we don't know what Hood's status is moving forward, but Ingles is going to be a nice short-term replacement who you can own in the situation where Rocket's out. Now, they don't play again on Friday, the Jazz. They're off until Saturday. So you've got a day where I wouldn't be going and, oh man, I've got to grab Ingles, let's grab him, and then sit him on a bench for a 0 on Friday. But once your lineup's locked on a Friday, he's not going to be a bad option, especially if you're needing assists and steals, because that's exactly what Joe provides the majority of the time. Joe Johnson started once more at power forward, 12, 4 and 3 in 29 minutes, more just a deeper league sort of a player, while Gordy Hayward struggled his way to 13, 5 and 4. Dante Exum looks good on the court, it just doesn't translate into stats really. And Trey Lyles, man, what happened to this guy? He was good at the end of last season and he looks terrible. It's still as low a value as he's going to have in Dynasty format, so if you're in a really deep sort of a situation, you know, and he's available, just grab him. But man, he's been really, really poor. Georgie Hill struggled here too, 9, 2 and 2 in 31 minutes. Ryan O'Neal says, do I drop Rocket for Tyler Ulis? Yes, I cannot see a situation where I wouldn't do that. Most of the time when I'll say things, it depends on need. But Rocket's not playing. He's been poor when he has played, and he's been limited with a knee problem. Yeah, I would grab Ulis there 100% of the time, no, pretty much no matter what spot. So, yes, Ryan, go and do that. If you are watching this live, just go ahead and hit one of those reaction buttons, the like, the love, the whatever, one of those funny faces to get the show out there. That would be great if you could do that whilst you are watching. Cleveland, the return of Kevin Love out of nowhere. So initial reports are Kevin Love is going to come back at some point during the upcoming road trip, which lasts from Saturday to Friday. Yep, so that's what we're going to, that's when he's going to return. Next minute, Thursday, starting. All right, cool. So obviously Kevin Love is back. He only played 20 minutes. He had 10 and 9. Now, the interesting thing in most cases, you go, that's a no-brainer. I'll add him. The Cavs have got 2 games left this week, Saturday and Sunday. You would think that Love will be limited minutes-wise in those and maybe only play 20 a game. And if he even plays both games, so it might be just one game. So you might be limiting that roster spot. Now, I'm not saying drop or add or don't add or anything like that, but I'm just giving you a perspective here. You might get 20 minutes out of one roster spot in 3 days. Can you afford it? Can you afford that with your team? Or do you have some other guys who are expendable where you can just drop the shit out of them and just stream other guys in? But remember that you are looking at a situation where it might be 20 minutes for one roster spot in 3 days for Kevin Love. And that might not be ideal. Both Kyrie and Iman Shumpert left this game with injuries. Shumpert earlier with a shoulder issue and Kyrie at the end with knee soreness. Ty Lue says it's all fine. Yeah, Kyrie will almost definitely play the next game, and Shumpert, he's day-to-day, but he should be right to go. With Shump missing and Kyle Korver out, J.R. Smith had his best game since his return. 30 minutes for J.R., 12 and 6, 4 triples to make up those 12 points and a steal. That's great. Awesome. But once Korver is back, once Shumpert plays, where is Smith getting 30? And do we actually trust him to be productive? Because I don't, because we haven't seen that from him really all season. So that's great 3-point streamer, great 16-team league guy, but really shouldn't be touching or shouldn't be sniffing any of the standard leagues. LeBron had 33, 10 and 6 with a pair of threes and a pair of steals, while Kyrie, before he went down, had 21, 4 and 4 in his 30 minutes. With Love back, obviously Dick Jefferson's going to lose some playing time. He still played 28 here. Dick went scoreless. There was really very little appeal there either. And Channing Frye, not that he was owned anywhere in 12s or 14s or 16s, he's going to lose a bit too. He had 3 points in his 18 minutes, and it's pretty much going to remove Derek Williams from the rotation. He didn't play in this one due to an injury, but he's going to find it hard to find a permanent spot. Tristan Thompson had 2 and 8, not a must-own player. Keep him in that Steven Adams consideration. You want field goal percentage, you want rebounds, yeah, that's going to help. But he's just not going to do enough in other areas. And with Love back, maybe he just loses a little bit of extra playing time as they go to the small ball lineup more, play Love at center or play Love and Fry as that front combination. And that takes 1 to 2 minutes off what Tristan Thompson can do. The Memphis Grizzlies and the Atlanta Hawks. JaMychal Green with a big night, 14 and 12. He also had the Richie Beno.
2 for 2.
Yep, 2 threes, 2 steals, 2 blocks, and 55% shooting. This comes on the back of just a plethora of absolute turd burgers from Green. Great stuff in this one, no doubt. Love it. But that's it. That's probably it for the next 5 games. He might not even accumulate these stats in 5 games combined. So he is a leave for the 14 to 16 teamers. Zebo, 8 and 5 in 18 minutes. He is not a 12-team league player, as I continually say. While Marc Gasol had a triple-double, 18, 10 and 10. And Mick Conley, 22, 4 and 12. They are obviously the 2 players who are driving this team. Vince Carter started in place of Chandler Parsons. He played 29 minutes, and he had 3 points. He had a steal and 2 blocks as well. That's nice. So that magic from that first game, it's worn off, where he went 8 from 8, 6 of 6 from 3, and had 24 points. We have seen pretty much nothing close to that in the next 2 games. There was really no chance he was going to become a consistent 12-team league guy. We're obviously seeing that he is just a deeper league guy. While Tone Allen, one of the premier steals specialists around, he had a pair of steals in his 28 minutes. Onto the Hawks, Dwight Howard, 10 and 11 with 3 blocks. Only still 5 shots, so they're just not giving him the shots, but he's helping you in the other areas, field goal percentage, blocks, and rebounds, and that's obviously fairly useful. Kent Bazemore had a weird-looking line, 16 points and no rebounds. Did have a steal and a block, but one of his better nights, and he's in fact played 30 minutes for the last 2 games. Not saying he's a must-own guy by any stretch. I'm probably never going to say that about Kent, but he is a very interesting streamer. Tabo, just the 14 minutes, 2, 1 and 1, nothing to see with him. And Timmy Hardaway, really the best of these wings, 30 minutes for Tim, 18, 4 and 3 with 2 triples and a steal. I almost have to classify him as a must-own. He's doing more than score, which is something that was a real negative for him early on in his career, but he's doing more than score. He hit 2 triples here as well, but the assists are up. He's doing well. I'm really being impressed with what I've seen from Tim. Dennis Schroeder, just the 26 minutes. He got benched for almost the entirety of the fourth quarter. 10, 3 and 3 in 26 minutes with 2 steals. This is the sort of stuff that was happening to Jeff Teague last season, except it's probably even more inexplicable because there's no capable backup on Atlanta. You can tell me Jose Calderon's a veteran, and I don't care because he's not good anymore. But they lost the game by 12. Schroeder's still pretty good to keep, but there will be these occasionally random nights that really screw with you. Paul Millsap's disappointing year continues, 10, 3 and 3 with 2 threes, a steal and a block. Obviously been a big letdown if you happen to grab him at the end of the first or the start of the second round. Speaking of big letdowns, the New York Knicks lost again to the Brooklyn Nets. The Nets on the road get the victory, and when you're allowing the Nets to put up 121 points, you might want to assess your defensive coordinator, Kurt Rambis, greatest coach of all time. You might want to assess a lot of things, to be honest. Let's start with the Nets. A couple of things to talk about here. There's always a couple of things to talk about. Jeremy Lin, 30 minutes, 15, 4 and 8, 2 steals and 2 threes. He has to be owned. He has to be owned in every league. I'm sure you're all aware of that at this point. This was always coming to me, and most of the time I won't say at this point hold on to someone. Lin was a guy that you should have grabbed immediately before he came back, because this was always going to be what happened, and I've been really impressed with seeing that from him. Brookie Lopez had 24 and 6 with a block and a 3. And 2 of my boys, probably my biggest boys on this team, Rondé Hollis-Jefferson had 20 and 10 with a block in 25 minutes, and Karis LeVert had 13 and 7 in 25 minutes. But the thing that sticks out there is they played 25 minutes. And this is the continual frustration with Kenny Atkinson and Hollis-Jefferson and LeVert. Now, they've had some pretty serious injuries. We know LeVert's had 3 surgeries on let's rephrase. He's broken his foot 3 times, and Hollis-Jefferson had a significant ankle problem last season, so they are limiting him. I wish they would just get them a little bit more playing time, but I can understand to a degree what they're doing. They're clearly the best 2 prospects on this team. LeVert is the best prospect, I think, by a considerable margin. Those lines look great. 13 and 7 from LeVert, fantastic. 20 and 10 for Rondé, brilliant. But at 25 minutes, I don't think that they're at this level of their career where you can consistently get top 100 production in only 25 minutes. If they were 30-minute-a-night players, I'd say, yeah, they've got to be owned everywhere. But we're not there, and I just don't think we're going to get there at all this season. I cannot see them playing 30 minutes a night at any point in this year. They'll just continually chug along. And we remember for this game, LeVert played 25 minutes with Joe Harris, Sean Kilpatrick out. Hollis-Jefferson played 25 minutes with Trevor Booker out. So the guys who were actually playing their position and taking their minutes were out and nothing changed with their playing time. So that's a key indicator to me that this is just what they're going to do. Some nights they might play 27, some they'll play 22, but they're not going to be locked in 33-minute a night, guys. I cannot see that happening. KJ McDaniels was resurrected 9 and 5 in 18 minutes, but he's he hasn't been in the rotation when everyone's healthy, so I wouldn't be getting too excited there. While Spencer Dinwiddie and Isaiah Whitehead were putrid. 10 points for Randy Foye in 28 minutes. He hit 2 triples, but there's not a lot to see for the rest of this team. On to the Knicks. Jeff Hornacek.
My name is Jeff.
It sure is, Jeff. What's one of the key things that I've mentioned about the Knicks all season? I know that I can't hear you respond, but I'm sure you're all shouting out, Josh, pick me. It's don't trust Jeff Hornacek's center rotation. Yes, that is correct. That is exactly what I see. Because whenever you think something is stable, it's not. The last game, Billy Hernan-Gomez moved to the bench, played more minutes, played 31. In this one, Kristaps Porzingis is out.
Porzingis.
But he starts Billy and plays 19 minutes. Yes, Hernan-Gomez had foul trouble. But now, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe when I talked to DFS yesterday, I said, don't be too scared to get your cock out. Because Kyle O'Quinn, he doesn't need many minutes to put up big numbers. I am still convinced, and probably one of the only people in the world who would say this, I still think that O'Quinn is a better player than Hernan-Gomez. I think that he can do more things. I know for sure he's a better fantasy player. That is without doubt he is a better fantasy player. If they play the same minutes, but getting those minutes is the problem. So we saw Hernan-Gomez have 4 and 6 in 19 minutes, and Koch had 23, 8 and 3 with a steal and a block in 26 minutes. He produces at such a high level. Now, Porzingis doesn't think this injury is going to keep him out any longer, and he's going to be probably back in the next game. So it's going to push O'Quinn down to a 10-minute sort of level. Now, what do they do with Hernan-Gomez? Do they start him next to Porzingis? Do they put him on the bench and start Lance Thomas? We have literally no idea. That is why I find it hard to say that Hernan-Gomez is an absolute 100% lock, must-own type of guy because of this sort of screwiness that Hornacek throws out there with these big men pretty much every single game. Hernan-Gomez, great field goal percentage, good rebounds, not a lot else. Defensive stats lacking, doesn't do the free throws all that well, no assists, no threes, scoring minimal. He's a rebounds and field goal percentage type of a player. And where the minutes are going to fluctuate, if you're in a 10-team league, he's not a must-own. In a 12-teamer, yeah, probably is, but I would have him, say, behind a guy like Willie Cauley-Stein at this point, because Cauley-Stein can get you, as we saw last game, 4 steals, 4 blocks. That's just not something that Hernan-Gomez is going to do. And I also feel more, as weird as it sounds, I feel more confident in Sacramento's minutes distribution to Cauley-Stein. Not for anybody else on that team, but for Cauley-Stein, I feel confident. And I don't for Will. Lance Thomas started. He had 15 and 10 in 34 minutes. He might as well take that box score home and frame it because he's very rarely going to get close to that again. So don't get too excited. Mallow had 17, 6 and 5 on Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose watch. What did he do? He had 22 points. Did he hit a 3? Of course not. Did he have a steal? Come on, man. You're joking. Did he have over 5 assists? No, he had 2. So he had 22, 2 and 2 for Derrick, and he also wasn't efficient. So once again, just one of those lines that looks sexy because he scored 22 points, and Derrick Rose is back to his MVP form, scoring 22 points. Yeah, but he's not. And we know that for fantasy, that he's just nowhere near. How do you think that American accent was? Terrible? Yeah, it was pretty bad. We know that with Rose, that he's fine. Really been efficient for this last 3 months of the season. Super efficiency. Really great field goal percentage, great scoring, absolutely terrible in every other area, and that's what limits his fantasy upside. Rugged Ronnie Baker played 25 minutes as well. Not that that really makes much impact on anyone. Donovan Martin says he trusted Jeff's center rotation. He paid the price. Jeff, this is what happens. I think I trusted it the game before, and I think I copped it there as well. And look, and I'm not going to fully blame Jeff for this one, because he did get 5 fouls in those 19 minutes, Hernan-Gomez, but it just always seems to happen, doesn't it? All this stuff always seems to go down. The Clippers and the Denver Nuggets was the next game. This was not ideal. The Clippers were without DeAndre Jordan. They were without Blake Griffin. So we saw the likes of Maurice Spates and Austin Rivers stay. Now, Spates, talking about racking up fouls, had 4 fouls in 15 minutes. He would have been, he was a good DFS play given the situation, but couldn't stay on the court. Had 8 and 5 with 2 triples, while Rivers had 17 and 3 threes and not much else. But these guys' roles are going to be severely reduced in the next game. We had Brandon Bass score 15 with 3 points, a steal and a block in 24 minutes. He probably won't be in the rotation in the next game. Chrissy Paul had 18, 3 and 14, while JJ Redick had a bounce-back game, 22, 5 and 1 with 4 threes and 2 steals, but I wouldn't be confident of that continuing, and I don't think that Redick is a must-own player, nor do I think that Jamal Crawford is, and he had a great opportunity here and scored 3 points. Not really much to talk about where the Clippers team. They're always going to lose this one on a back-to-back in Denver, altitude, and without 2 of their best 3 players. Let's talk Denver, because it's not like they weren't missing players. They were without Darrell Arthur, they were without the Rooster, Danilo Gallinari, and they were without Wilson Chandler, but they did welcome back Ken Farid. He played 18 minutes in his return and had 12 and 6 with 1 assist. I don't think that Farid is going to sniff 12-team league value. There are just too many other players there who are better than him, and he just won't get a big enough role. Farton Will Barton. Big game for the Fartster. 36 minutes, 35 points, 7 triples, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal. He played basically about 18 minutes in a row from halfway through the first quarter all the way through the second quarter. Obviously, there were guys missing on the wing, and that gave him that extra playing time. But he's looked good the last 2 games. Not good enough that I think he's a must-own guy, because once Chandler and Gallo are back, he's just going to go back to a mid to low 20s sort of a role. But this was a huge performance from him. Nikola Jokic, triple-double, 17, 14, and 11. Another big night from the Joker. An anti-triple one, though, a little bit unusual for him, but still good performance there, while Gaz Harris was great also. It was nice. He scored 20 points. He had 3 triples. He had 4 assists, and his efficiency is absolutely through the roof this year. 67% shooting in this game, and he went 3 of 5 from 3. I think he's going to be really, really good, Gaz. Jameer Nelson, 34 minutes, 16, 1 and 5. Probably his best game in a long time for Jameer. I wouldn't be getting too excited, but he's a great streamer if you need assists at this current point. While the Blue Arrow, Jamal Murray, not his best night. Took 14 shots, which was second highest on the team. Hit just 4 of them for 10 and 5 and added 3 steals in 25 minutes. One show also started and he had 9 and 5 in 26, but with Chandler and Gallo back, he will find it hard to get that or any really playing time, while Mason Plumlee started next to Jokic as well, had 10 and 6 in that playing time. Now, Manny Marino says, drop Murray for Love to come off IR. I assume you're talking about the Blue Arrow there, Manny, and as I touched on earlier with Love, will you be able to win by getting 20 minutes, potentially 20 minutes out of one roster spot over 3 days? I don't think that activating Love for 20 minutes in 3 days is worth it. I would probably rather stick with... Look, now, I don't know where he is. Look, Love still might have the out designation, so you might be able to make another roster move here and get someone with a Friday, Saturday back-to-back, make that move, get them in there, and then get Love ready for next week. Because I don't think dropping someone to activate Love to potentially get 20 minutes of action is not going to be necessarily the best move, when you could make a move now. If they haven't updated his out status, you might be able to add Nikola Mirotic, Denzel Valentine, who play Friday, Saturday, and then you could get theoretically 60 minutes of action out of those 2 guys while leaving Love on your IR spot, and that could be the real difference. You know, that's 3 times as many minutes. Obviously, they're not the same players, but you're going to get way more production out of it in that sense. So have a look. Out of acquisitions for the week, Manny. That's stiff for you, mate. Again, 20 minutes for Love, and how much do you think you're going to get out of Jamal? And I'm not off the top of my head, I don't know how many more games Denver plays this week. I think they have 2, but I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to check that. But if Denver's got 1 game, then yes, I would drop Murray for Love. If Denver's got 2, it's a tougher question. Let's move on to the last game of the night. This is going to be a quick recap. The Magic and the Warriors. The Magic got smashed. The Warriors won. I'll do a little bit more than that, but not much. No one played minutes, really. Nikola Vucevic, 25. Terry Ross, 8 points in 25. He can go. Get rid of him in 10s, get rid of him in 12s. Fournier had 12 points in 24 minutes. And literally, I said there wasn't going to be much to talk about. There's nothing to talk about. This game was over immediately. It was like 31-10 at the end of the first quarter, pretty much. Clay had 21 points in the first quarter himself. Nothing to read into. For the Warriors, Steph went off injured in the first quarter, came back in the first quarter, and he was right to go. He's fine with his ankle. 25, 1 and 9 with 3 threes and 3 steals and 2 triples, while Clay had 29 in the end with 5 threes and 5 assists. He's been a lot more consistent since Kevin Durant has been out. not much else to talk about. Pat McCaw, under 20 minutes for the second consecutive game, while Barnesy played 21, but neither of those are anywhere close to 12 team, not even 14, not even 16 team league value, I don't think, and should be viewed that way. While Ian Clarkey had 12 points in his 20 minutes, 2 threes, and definitely has got a little bit of confidence from that game against the Spurs and looked a lot better over the last couple of games. He's definitely someone for your 20-team leagues to pay attention to because he's playing a nice little solid role at the moment. All right, I'm going to take a quick break now, and then we're going to be back to look at DFS action for Friday, where we've got 8 games on.
Every time I think I see a face, it reminds me of a time and place. She gets me down. Loneliness is a time and space. I feel a hard and sweet embrace. It's all around. She never gets me down. She always keeps my feet flat on the ground. Never gets me down. Every time I start thinking about you, my world just revolves around you. Everything I hold, I keep inside. She never gets me. She never gets me.
All right, let's talk perfect DFS lineups. On FanDuel, Mick Conley, 45.8, and Jezza at 34.8. Farton Will Barton, 45.5, and Reddick at 32.5. Small forwards, LeBronald had 54, and Hollis Jefferson had 33. Power forward, Jermichael Green, 34.4, and Jokic at 48.3. And at centre, Gobert, 50.3, and that cost $60,000, the full 60 for, and that gave you 378.6 points on DraftKings. Conley at 48.5, Barton 50.25, LeBron 60, Jermichael 38.5, Gobert 53.75, Clay 44.5, Rondé 35.5, and Cock at 41 for a total of 372, and that cost $49,100. There are 8 games on. Let's start with the first one of those, and that is my beloved Chicago Bulls. I say that with a hint of irony. They're traveling to Washington. There is no spread currently released for this game. We know that Dwyane Wade is out. The other thing we don't know is if Johnny Wall is going to play. He is currently questionable with that foot issue. Yes, he left the game and was able to come back in the last time the Wizards played, but that doesn't mean that it hasn't swollen up and become sore after the fact. So we might not see John. Now, the good thing about this is it's the first game of the night, so we'll get news before lock. And that means if Wall is out, then Brandon Jennings becomes a super option. He is, now FanDuel has gone preemptive and they've bumped him up by $900. So it takes a little bit of the shine off Brando. He's at 4,000 on DraftKings. They've bumped him there as well, but it doesn't bump him enough to make him a non-playable player if John happens to be out. Let's talk about the point guards here. As for Wall, he's at 10,400. Good matchup for him against the Bulls, but obviously we don't know his status. I love him on DraftKings at 9,500. If he plays, that's a really good spot. It's not quite as good on FanDuel, but it is still pretty decent. He averages 53 against the Bulls the last 3 times, and he's, you feel almost a lock for 45 points most times he goes out there. So I think he's going to be okay if he plays, but I like it a lot more over on DraftKings. Now, as for the Bulls, Rajon Rondo is now up to $5,800. He is coming off 2 very, very strong games. The John Wall defense is probably something to be a little bit concerned about, and I'm not totally into not Lopez. I'll talk about him in a second. Not totally into Rondo at that $5,800 price tag. On DraftKings, they've gone harder again, and they've gone, you know what? You guys want Rondo? Have Rondo. $6,500. And to that, I'll say, probably not. I don't think I want to spend that in a John Wall matchup. Rondo has struggled against the Wizards, averaging just 23 over the last 3 games. 29 minutes of contest there. The last 2 games, he's hit 6 threes. That is an unrealistic target to expect from him, so that's bumped his scoring. So I'm just not thinking that Rondo at 6,500 is a good investment. We saw Michael Carter Williams be the backup point guard in the last game. There's no campaign in this one. I don't know if Jaren Grant will be in, but regardless, I don't know why I'm continuing to talk. I don't think either of those guys is interesting, except Carter Williams can play on the wing. So maybe we hear that they're going to start him over Wade, which would be an absolutely horrific mistake, in my opinion. But my opinion doesn't mean anything when it comes to Chicago Bulls starting lineups. But if they start Carter Williams, then maybe you have a sneaky peek at him at 3,738 on DraftKings if they start him, as he'll handle the backup point and he'll take some of Wade's wing minutes, or they can put Grant back in at point. So that's a way they can go. The way I think they go is to Denzel Valentine. He's at 3,700 Denzel. He had 26 points in his last game. In fact, the last time he played the Wizards, he had 27 points. Very cheap price, potentially a very significant role. And I think that at 3,700, it's very, very hard to ignore. He's up to 41 on DraftKings, so it's a preemptive rise. So that makes him a little less interesting, but not really. I still think that he can easily exceed that number, and I think that he is going to be a really, really good option here. I think that they will start him. They could start Paul Zipser and move Jim Butler down to the 2. I think that we've seen over the last 3 to 4 games that Valentine has jumped back ahead of Zipser. But knowing Fred Hoiberg, anything you know from the last 2 games, it's null and void moving forward, because he changes things as often as he changes his jocks. Maybe more frequently. I'm not sure about his underwear hygiene. It could be terrible. But he changes his mind very often. Brattles Beal, 8,500 now. They are pricing him out. For me, that is too high. Yes, he could have a big night against the Bulls, and if Denzel Valentine's trying to guard him, it might not go well. I don't want anything to do with that for cash, but the way that Beal plays, he has still got GPP upside. He could have a 60-point game, and that would obviously return value at 8,500, but I hate it for cash. He's at 82 on DraftKings, the same story there as well. Small forward, Jim, 8,700. He's been terrible, Butler, averaging under 34 points across the last 5 games. They've responded by dropping his salary by 700. He's at 88 on DraftKings. Now, he is going to absorb more usage with Wade out. That's a given, but he just hasn't been able to hit anything or look active or do anything. I wouldn't be looking at Butler as a cash option at all, but I love him for a GPP because maybe that extra usage spurs him on, or maybe he just gets completely disinterested. But he has got that upside to go for 50, to go for 55, and really put a team to it, or keep the Bulls in it. And at that sort of a salary, that's where it can really pay off. Otto Porter's at 6,400. His recent numbers have been pretty solid, averaging 33 over his last 5, and at 6,400, that's sort of right where it needs to be. I'm still not convinced with Porter, not enough to use him anyway at that price, and at 65 on DraftKings, I'm not going to be interested. Bojan Bogdanovic, only GPPs, you know the story, has really struggled recently to get numbers going. He hasn't really hit his shots very well, but we're not relying upon him in cash. Love Nikola Mirotic. He's at 4,300. He had 25 in the last game, 36 in the one before that. Feel pretty good about him getting to 25 again here. He will absorb, as I said, Wade's usage. Real massive chance that he starts in this game again. I said that last game didn't happen, but Hoiberg did talk about it. I know he's a big fan of the podcast, so he might be implementing that idea for this game. So look for Mirotic at 4,300. That's a great price. 43 on DraftKings as well. Really love it. And I know that you've been burnt by Mirotic plenty of times, so that might limit your guys' exposure to him in cash. But I'm not going to say it's a fail-safe, but it's feeling pretty good, just given the way that things are panning out at the moment. But with Hoiberg, the sky is the ground. Who knows what's going to happen? Markieff Morris is at 6,100. He is not doing enough to justify that price tag to me, so that's a pass. I don't even really like his GPP upside, and Bob Portis, you can forget that. Centers, Bob Lopez, 4,500 for Robin. Yeah, no. 4,000 on DraftKings though. I think there's something to see there. It's not much, and it's not for cash. But if Lopez gets one of those nights where he gets going early and he's the guy that absorbs a bit of Wade's usage and hits some shots and have one of those inexplicable performances when Robin Lopez leads the team in shot attempts, which happened earlier this season, then that can actually work out for him. So he's worth a look. The centers on Washington don't have nimble feet. They're not pick and pop threats that are going to bother him that much. I think there's a decent chance here for Robin to put up some okay numbers, but I wouldn't be relying upon it. As for the Wizards, Gortat and Mahinmi. Now, Gortat, it's a back-to-back for the Wizards. So we've seen in back-to-backs, but mainly the second half, that Gortat will play big minutes in one of those games. Normally the second half, and then Mahinmi, the second game, and Mahinmi plays limited. But if you wanted to take a punt on Gortat getting those big minutes in the first game of a back-to-back, this is the chance to do it. I wouldn't be using it in cash by any means, but he could get 35 points into 5,400. That could work out if they decide this is the 34-minute game for Gortat, and then we go 24-24 in the second game on Saturday. So that's an option there. I wouldn't be looking at either of those players in any cash game spots, though. All right, let's move on to the next game now. Dallas and Philadelphia. The return of Nerlens Noel to Philadelphia. Let's talk injuries. It's Wes Matthews is the one we really need to check on for Dallas. He missed the last game with a calf strain. If he is out, we're going to see Dorian Finney-Smith. I don't think we're going to see the Nicholas Brasino show once more, which is what we saw in Washington, where Brasino went off, scored 13 points in 23 minutes. I don't think that'll be the case. We'll see hopefully some more Nerlens. We'll see some Dorian Finney-Smith, who's not going to be a factor. But this is obviously a situation to just keep an eye on. For the point guards, TJ McConnell is at 5,500. He's got his numbers back cracking again. 30-point average over the last three. And at 5,500, you get 30 points. It's a win for cash. But I don't know that I 100% trust it, especially against the Mavericks, who have been known to really restrict what point guards can do. So not strong on him. JJ Barea is an interesting one. He's up to 4,300 over on FanDuel. Definitely feels a little bit high. But on DraftKings, where he comes in at 3,700, if he has one of those nights where he takes away playing time from Yogi Ferrell, or they feel comfortable bumping him to, say, 24 minutes, at 3,700, he's got a real chance to exceed that. He put up 28 points in the last game, and at 3,700, I think it's totally a fine gamble in a GPP type of situation. As for Yogi, I don't really feel it for him. He's at 4,800. He's averaging just the 17 points over the last three. No, I think there's point guards that you can do better with than Yogi Ferrell. Shooting guards, Wes Matthews, I wouldn't be using him even if he played. Seth Curry at 5,600, torched the Sixers the last time he played them. 5,600 for Seth. I'm not really feeling it. It's all right. I think there is some GPP upside there for Seth, but I don't really think that it's one of the better plays that's on the board. Timothé Luwawu-Cabarrot will likely continue to start. He started the last game, put up 18 points, and at $3,700, that's not too bad, but it's also not too good. And I don't think he's got high enough ceiling to be a GPP guy. Well, Gerald Henderson's minutes are limited now. The pencil Harrison Barnes at 6,100. No real upside, but he's not a bad cash play at that price. And Bob Carve just feels a little too high. 7,100 for Robert Covington. I just think that's a little bit too high for Covington. He's at 69 on DraftKings.
Giggity.
Same story as on FanDuel. Power forwards. Rashawn Holmes, $4,600. He's been strong, averaging 29 over his last 3 games, 25 over his last 5. I think that Okafor could be in trouble a little against Dirk. That might limit him. I don't feel I can trust Holmesy as a cash option, but I think he's got some pretty decent tournament upside. 51 on DraftKings takes a little bit of the shine off, but there's still some value there in him. As for Dirk at 6,300, no, I like Dirk, obviously. That feels like $300, $400 too expensive. Dario Saric is going to be the interesting one. He is up to 7,900 on FanDuel and DraftKings. Yes, his numbers recently have been pretty impressive, averaging 38 points over the last 5, but is that enough at 7,900? I don't feel confident in Saric being able to just consistently smash through 40 points a game, which is what he would need to do. So I don't think that that's necessarily a great price there. For the centers, Okafor versus Noel. Jaleel putting up good numbers recently, averaging 32 over his last 3 and 29 over his last 5, which at 5,400 gets shit done. But how will he go against Nerlens, or how will he go against Dirk? That is the question. I have absolutely no problem with considering Jaleel a GPP option. We've seen over these last couple of games in surprise performances against the Warriors as well, that he can exceed value and he can put up 7x type value, approaching 8x type value, and that's clearly really useful. So I think that he is worth a look. As for Noel, he's returning home. He's buying the fans cheesesteaks. I've never had a cheesesteak. Are they worth it? Next time I go to America, should I get one? And the question is, do I have to get it in Philadelphia, or are there other establishments around the country where I can get it? Because I don't think I'd be going to Philadelphia, but I'd just like to know that for all you cheesesteak aficionados. Or is it even worth my time? I can't believe I'm still talking about cheesesteaks. Nerlens Noel, $6,000. motivation might be a factor. I think that Nerlens is a GPP type of a guy here, but it all depends on me. To me, if Wes is out, I can see them going smaller and playing Nerlens and Dirk, also going bigger and playing Nerlens and Dirk together, and that's going to give him the ability to approach 30 minutes, but I'm just not banking on it. I'm not putting huge amounts of faith. That means he's eliminated from cash game play to me. All right, let's head on to the next game now. We're going to look at Toronto, the slumping Toronto Raptors against the Detroit Pistons. Kirk. Well, I've got a couple of responses for my cheesesteak question. Kirk says Pats in Philly is the best ever, and Manny says they're overrated. So I'm getting two responses here. But Kirk, okay, Pats in Philly is the best ever. Is there anywhere West Coast that would serve decent facsimiles for me to have one? Because if I come over, I'm probably going to San Francisco and I'm going to Vegas. They're going to be the places that I go to if I come over for Summer League this year. So is there anywhere that can approximate the Philly cheesesteak experience? Or is it that good that I should fly to Philadelphia, check out that city to have one of those, amongst other things? That's the big question. I'm tackling the big issues on today's show. Geno's is another option. What's no? No to what, Kirk? No, don't get one on the West Coast. All right, we'll take up this cheesesteak discussion soon. Toronto at Detroit. The Pistons, actually both these teams are really struggling. The Pistons are favored by 4 and the total is a miserable 199.5. That is not ideal. Injury-wise, it's only Kyle Lowry that's out at this stage. At point guard, Corey Joseph is at 4,800. A little bit of a bounce back from Corey today. I don't hate it, but I just don't think his upside's really that great, so I'm not really that interested there. Ish Smith is just a GPP guy, and I'd say the same for Reggie Jackson. He is down to 4,900 Jackson. The last few games have been disappointing, but he could easily drop a 37 or 38 pointer here, and that would be a great return. As I often say, he gets the majority of the minutes the majority of the time. And at 4,900, I think that is absolutely worth taking a crack at in a GPP. But in a cash game, that he could scuttle your plans, as we've seen the last couple of games. One of those due to a blowout, and one of those due to piss poor production. Delon Wright, not really. Shooting guard, speaking of piss poor production, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is averaging 15 points over his last 5. At some point, he's going to drop a 35. It's going to happen. We know it's going to happen. Will it be in this game? I don't know. 4,400. The matchup for him is not great. The Raptors defense, it can be a problem for wings. You've always got to consider him in your GPP player pool, because if he goes off at that sort of a low price, where we were talking about him as a $5,800 player not that long ago. Now he's down to 44, so it is a big drop. At 53 on DraftKings, his GPP appeal is much less, but 44 on FanDuel is definitely worth it. For GPPs, of course. Norm Powell, no thank you. DeMar at 9,300. That is too high. He is not getting anywhere near that recently, averaging just 33 over the last 5. Slow-paced game. No thank you for DeMar DeRozan there. DeRozan on DraftKings down to 8,000. That's getting a little bit more like it. That's a GPP situation to me. Marcus Morris at 5,600. Nope. Nope. Damari Carroll, also a no. Stan Johnson, no thanks. Power forward Toby Harris, love this one. He should be back starting. 5,500 for Toby. I think this is a really good spot, and he should be pushing 30. He's already averaging 31 over the last 5, and I don't really see why he doesn't get back to that in this game. Serge Ibaka at 6,000. There is no way that I would invest 6,000 in Serge Ibaka. He has been down for a very long time. He's averaging 21 over the last 5. If you want to get funky and throw him into a GPP and go, man, maybe he turns it around, cool. I won't be doing that. The tackle box should get limited minutes, so there's not much to see with him. At center, I don't really love this for Jonas Valanciunas, although he has had a good record against Drummond. So if you want to go weird, throw him in a GPP, but he's still priced at 5,600 on FanDuel, 5,000 on DraftKings. There is no way you want to use him in cash, but this might be an okay situation. I just hate the way he's being used. As for Drummond, always GPPs only. 7,400 for Drummo. Has been really disappointing lately, but he's also had a 50-point game in the last week. So that's the rub with him. He's at 71 on DraftKings as well. Just I wouldn't want to use him in any sort of cash situation. Now, time to do an update on the cheesesteaks, because I know the comments have been coming in. Manny says, get a Cuban sandwich in Miami. I don't know if I'm going back to Miami. Maybe. Lamb says, Denver has summer. We'll show you a good time. All right, there's a vote for Denver. Ryan O'Neill says, forget the cheesesteak and go to In-N-Out. Ryan, I don't know if you've been to Summer League or if you've ever been to UNLV. There is literally an In-N-Out burger on the campus, and I eat it every day. So you don't need to sell me on In-N-Out burger. When I was at Summer League, you just walk out the stadium. There's one on campus. Go grab one and go back in. I had a lot of In-N-Out, and plus, my brother lives in San Francisco. There's an In-N-Out 3 blocks from there. So when I go to San Francisco, just walk around there. There's an In-N-Out there. So yeah, that was my number one priority when I headed over last season for Summer League. Where are the nearest In-N-Outs? And sorted them out. So thank you. Thanks for the tip, but I am all over it. Let's go to the next game. It is Boston taking on the Brooklyn Nets. The Nets coming off 2 straight victories. The Celtics won't be happy with that. Not that they're going to be able to lose that chance at the number 1 pick. But let's see how this goes. The Celtics are favored by 9. There's no Isaiah Thomas. He is out for the next 2 games. So that means it's time to unleash your Marcus Smarts. Avery Bradley fires up and Terry Rozier comes into play. I assume that Trev Booker will be back after resting today. Shawnee Kilpatrick and Joe Harris were unaware, but as we saw today, when they sit out, the minutes just go to Randy Foye and to KJ McDaniels. It doesn't impact what Whitehead does. It doesn't impact what Dinwiddie does. It doesn't impact what LeVert does. It goes to Foye, it goes to McDaniels, and it gets spread in other areas. Jeremy Lin took a few more minutes, but I think that's probably going to be more the standard rather than the exception moving forward. Point guard, let's start with Lin. He is at $5,900. Love that. He's averaging 32 as it is over the last 3 games, and he's yet to go over 30 minutes in a game. No problem with Lin. His floor is 25. His minimum score in the last 5 is 25 points. So that's it's a pretty good situation there for Jezza. Rozier at 4,100. That's more of a GPP situation. I'm not really too excited there, but at 3,000 on DraftKings, that turns me on a little. I think there is really good GPP upside for Terry. At $3,000, that is a significantly low price. I don't think he's going to be brilliant, but he has got a real chance to exceed that sort of number. Shooting guards, let's talk point guard. Dinwiddie and Whitehead. No, that was quick. Shooting guards, Avery Bradley at 64. I think he's going to take a bit of usage on, but they've bumped his salary by $800. I think he's going to take a lot of Isaiah's usage. At 6,400, I do like Avery here. It's a really great matchup, very tasty. He's at 6,000 on DraftKings as well. Really, really do like him here. And as for Marcus Smart, they've gone sick on him as well. He's at 6,300. That might be a little bit tough for him to get to. But on DraftKings at 49, that is as core as it gets to me. Marcus Smart at 4,900 on DraftKings is a lock-in cash option at 4,900 against the Nets. That is a brilliant, brilliant price in a situation where Isaiah Thomas is out. I think he's going to have pretty sky-high ownership as well, but he is a great cash play. Jay Crowder, the matchup looks great. He's got a good record against Brooklyn, averaging 33 points in his last 3. He's at 5,600. He's been absolutely piss poor. You'd think his name's Kent Bazemore. He's been that bad recently. At 5,600, though, he's got the ability here to drop a 34 or a 35, and that does make him appealing. The matchup is as good as it gets. I think he's a GPP guy, but shit, I would not have any faith in trusting him in any cash game play. Rondé Hollis-Jefferson, 4,400. Well, he's crushing it. We know that, but will it continue? That's the concern. I like Rondé. I wouldn't go as far as to say that he is going to be worthwhile for cash, but at 4,000 on DraftKings, that's hard to go past. The guy's averaging 28 points over the last 3, had 36 today. He's at $4,000. That's really, really tough to go past with Rondé. But, as I said, no Trev Booker today. Still only played 25 minutes and got a bit lucky going 20 and 10. So that's not going to be the commonplace thing for him moving forward. But there is still some obviously awesome value there. Now, I did skip Karis LeVert, which I shouldn't have. He's at 4,400. As I touched on earlier, his minutes are weird. He's really just a GPP guy. But even then, I don't even think his upside's all that high. So with 8 games on, I'm not really all that interested in Karis. Jaylen Brown gets a marginal bump here as well without Isaiah Thomas because we won't have Marcus Smart playing on the wing as much. He'll play more at the 1. So it opens up some minutes for Jaylen. He is at 3,700. Yeah, but no. I just don't think the role is going to be large enough for Jaylen to really do too much with it. At power forward, it's a bunch of nothing. Trevor Booker and Amir Johnson. And at center, Kelly Olynyk. The matchup's great for Kelly, but the minutes, Who knows where they sit? So no. Al Horford coming off a monster. He's at 6,500. I'm okay with using Big Al here. And at 6,100 on DraftKings, I think that that's fine to use as well against Brook Lopez. A really good situation for him. As for Lopez, a $7,000 player on DraftKings, or FanDuel, sorry, averaging 34 over his last 3 games. Not bad, not bad. 6,800 on DraftKings, the same. It's pretty good, and I would have no issue using him in GPPs, and even in cash, I think he's a pretty good play as well. All right, let's, where are we? See if there's any questions come in. Chris Fraser says, my favorite jersey of all time. Don't know. Good question. Ryan also chimes in with Lopez. He'll be rested, surely. Well, he hasn't rested every back-to-back, so I don't think that that's 100% guaranteed. You go back and look at the last few back-to-backs that the Nets have had. He hasn't rested all of those, so it's not a guarantee. That's not a set plan that they've done. They did it like 2 or 3 times at the beginning of the year, and they've done it once in the last 3 or 4 months. So, no, I don't think that that's absolutely a guarantee, but it is a possibility that it does happen. And if it does, we're looking at Quincy Acey and Justin Hamilton. I'm not sold on it. I would say there's less than a 50% chance of Lopez resting in this one. Again, if we go back and look at the game logs for him, we can have a look and look at the last couple of back-to-backs, and maybe I should do that right now. But he hasn't rested all of those, Ryan. So it is a possibility, but it's not something that they do every single game with him. Yes, they did rest Trevor Booker today, but again, it's been quite sporadic and it's been quite unpredictable when they choose to rest guys. So there is definitely that concern with him. He missed that game on the 10th of March, wasn't a back-to-back. The last game he missed prior to that, Brook, was, where are we? Back on the 15th of January. Wasn't it? Oh, that's not true. Sorry, on the 27th of January, which was the first half of a back-to-back. He missed that game. And then the last back-to-back he rested before that was on the 14th of November. So we had him rest on the 14th of November and the 27th of January. He has other back-to-backs. He played on the 3rd and the 4th of March together. He played on the 25th and the 24th of February. He played both of those games. He played on the 7th and 8th of February. He played on, so they're all the back-to-backs. So he's played the last 4 back-to-backs. So there is a chance, definitely, but he has only sat a couple. It hasn't been a regular thing, but it is something to bear in mind. Just also bear in mind, and don't go and load up on AC thinking it's a guarantee it's going to happen, because it just hasn't. It hasn't been something that's been continually going on. But good point, thank you, Ryan. Next game, Houston and the New Orleans Pelicans. Let's look at any injury situations. Nene is unlikely to play in this one. He's likely to be rested. That's really the only injury we need to pay attention to. So that means that the table, Montrezl Harrell will get some extra playing time and maybe become an interesting option, but probably not. At point guard, Pat Bev's at 5,300. The matchup is a bit of a positive one for him, so I think that there is something to see there with him, but far from a lock, but absolutely has some value. Drew Holiday, absolutely terrible at the moment. He's at 7,300. I cannot justify using him, especially when we've got Pat Bev on him, so that makes him much less appealing. He's down to 6,700 Holiday on DraftKings, so that's a little bit better, and there is definitely upside there. And I would consider him as a GPP guy on DraftKings, but that's really about it. Shooting guard, Jordy Crawford has been signed not only to a second 10-day contract, not only to a rest of season contract, but to a 2-year deal. They've been that impressed with him. He scored in double digits in every game that he's played for the Pelicans. He is a minimum salary player. I think you should feel pretty good about Jordan Crawford in a high-paced game that's going to be somewhat of a shootout. I think he's getting double-digit points, and he's getting 20 FanDuel points and 20 DraftKings points. Now on DraftKings, he's at 4,400, so I say no to that. FanDuel at minimum, I say yeah, that definitely works. Etuan Moore got super hot in the last game. Only gave us 21 fantasy points, so he is not a great option, I don't believe. While Jim Harden down at 11,800, he's obviously got the ability to go big, we know that. 11,800, I don't really feel great about using him in cash at the moment. He at that sort of price tag, he's only reached 5x value once out of the last 6 games, and that is not ideal to me. but definitely he's got the ability to go big in a tournament. I'm just not feeling great about it in cash, especially when there are so many other options out there that I do like, and I think spreading your value around across the lineups is probably going to be the better way to go. Eric Gordon and Lou Williams. Well, Lou Will went off in the last game, but at 5,800, it's if you want to play the odds of things or the likelihood of things happening, it's not happening again. So spending 5,800 on it is not ideal, and the chances of him getting to that level is pretty minimal. It's the first time that he's reached over 5x value in the last 6 games. In fact, he's only got more than 2x in 2 of those last 6 games. So that's how piss poor he's been. Yes, there might be some GPP upside there, but a lot of things have to go right. For the small forward, Solly Hill, no. Trevor Ariza, 5,200. Trev's been playing a little bit better, maybe going a little bit under the radar with what he's been producing. 27 points over the last 5. I think he's not bad. He's not a bad cash option. The shooting has started to come around a little bit as well. We're not going to be looking at Dante Cunningham or Sam Decker. For the power forwards, the table is a minimum salary player. If Clint Capella gets into foul trouble against Boogie and Davis, which is a huge possibility. We've seen plenty of centers get into trouble against DeMarcus Cousins. Then the table at 3,500, if he gets 20 minutes or so, then you could get 20 points out of him. So he would be an interesting GPP option at that minimum salary mark. Over on DraftKings, he is 3,000 as well, so minimum. So I think there's a little bit to see there with Harold. Don't ignore him completely. Anthony Davis, 11,200. I feel better about spending over 11,000 on Davis than I do on Harden. Not 100%, but I just feel a little bit better, but both of them I probably lean towards being GPP type of guys. Ryan Anderson, you know the story. He is only a GPP player. That is all that he did. And Kirk mentioned something about Lou Williams. He had major blowout run. Yeah, he did. That was a game that the Rockets beat the Lakers by 39 points. So he got all that playing time at the end, and it's just not going to happen. Look, that's not true. They might blow them out, but for him to get 31 minutes and take the most shots on the team, it's a real dartboard sort of shot. And it's not a great strategy to go through. Clint Capella, 5,400. I like it if he can stay on the court, and that's a risk. That's why I don't want to use him in cash, but I think that in GPPs, he could easily get 30, no doubt about that. As for Boogie, 9,400, has torched Capella before. He averages 50 against the Rockets. It's obviously a little bit different here in New Orleans. I'm not really thrilled about using him in cash. I do think that in GPPs he can easily exceed that sort of value, so that does make him interesting and having a little bit of upside. At 98 on DraftKings, I'm not quite as into it. Questions? Gonna check the Lamb says surely there's an edible cheese. So you don't even know if there's any good cheesesteaks in Denver. You're just making it up, trying to convince me to come there. Hiking in the snow? Nah. Hiking in the mountains? Nah, that's not interesting. I'm not. I'm going to be coming in summer, man. Probably too early to tell, but is Tim Hardaway Jr. going to be top 75 next year? Yeah, impossible. We don't know where he's going to be. I would say unlikely, but who knows where he's going to end up. So yeah, unlikely. Let's crack on to the next game now. We've got Minnesota. They are taking on the Miami Heat. The Heat are favored by 4.5 points. So the Heat rolling to try and get themselves into this final playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. The total is 206.5. Lance Stevenson, I don't think he's going to play. Even if he was healthy, I don't think he's going to get into the rotation, so there's not much to look at there. At point guard, we've got a battle of two guys who are in some pretty red-hot form. Goran Dragic is at 7,700. He dropped 45 in the last game. He's averaging 35 across the last 5. Rubio's not an ideal point guard for him to match up against, so I don't really feel that as being a great spot. And 7,600 for Rick. I love Rick, but that's it's too expensive. Sorry, mate. Just love him. Averaging 42 across the last 5, but I cannot see him continuing to score 20 points per game and put up 40 fantasy points per game. It might bite me on the ass again, but at that price, I'm just not interested. He's at 77 on DraftKings. That's a big no from me. Tyler Johnson at 5,300. A good game in the last one, but had struggled prior to that. I'm not really feeling anything there. Chrissy Dunn and Tyus Jones, neither. At shooting guard, we're down to Dion Waiters. It's very much a similar Lou Williams situation. He's at 6,600. Yeah, look, if one of these guys goes down and weird stuff happens, then Dion can put up good numbers. But at 6,600, he had 21 points in the last game. He had just 29 average over his last 3. Not enough. and that is not a good investment at that price. 67 on DraftKings makes it even worse. Joshy Richardson, no. Wayne Ellington's at 4,100. If they said minimum salary for Wayno, I'd say, you know what, that's good because he can hit some threes and work it out. But at 4,139 on DraftKings, I just don't really see huge upside or huge ability to turn that into value. I like Shabazz Muhammad. 3,700 for Shabazz. He had 28 in the last game and played 31 minutes with Bjelica going down, and now we've got no Bjelica at all. So you should feel pretty good about Muhammad at least going over 20 points and with the ability to go for 25 or 26. I think that he becomes a very, very good play on both DraftKings and FanDuel. As for Wigo, he's at 7,100, has been terrible. Obviously, if you're using him, it can't be in cash because his numbers haven't been great. He can explode, but I don't feel that awesome about using Andrew Wiggins at this point. Gorgie Jeng at 5,300. Well, no one's coming for his minutes now, like Bjelica was, but the numbers haven't been there. The matchup is not ideal for Gorgie, so I would pass on that. While Jimmy Johnson at 5,800, the numbers have not been there for Jim either. So this is it's a slower paced matchup as well. I'm not really all that keen on Jim. Centers, Hassan Whiteside, 8,700 for Hassan. Yeah, I think that Hassan can easily get to 40 at 81 on DraftKings. I think that's a really, really good spot for Whiteside and one of the better center options that's on the market. Not quite there with him on FanDuel, but still a pretty nice spot. 10-6 for Karl Anthony Towns. Only had 38 in the last game, but he's averaging 48 points over his last 5. A pretty solid option if you don't want to go with Davis or Cousins as one of those expensive big men. He's at 10-4 on DraftKings as well. It's not an ideal matchup. It doesn't scream brilliance or anything like that, but Towns can be fairly solid, and you know you're getting at least 45-ish out of him. All right, let's crack on to the second last game of the night. It's the Orlando Magic and the Phoenix Suns. The Suns are favored by 3, and the total is 220 points. It doesn't appear that Brandon Knight is going to play for this team. Again, they did list him as questionable with back spasms. The reports coming out from Gambo, the Phoenix radio personality, is that he will not play for this team. Again, Gambo was also the first one on the news of Eric Bledsoe being out for the season. And the reports come out today that Eric Bledsoe knew that he was being shut down for the season on Tuesday. So they went through the whole procedure of not telling anybody, playing him, getting to the arena, dressing, going through warm-ups, and then making that change. As I say, it's always the shit teams that try and be sneaky. What was the point of that for when you've known, or he's known for 24 hours of just not mentioning anything, and then even after the game, not mentioning anything when it's been known for all this time? What a weird organization. Just stupid. Leandro Barbosa and Derek Jones Jr. both left last game with ailments. Jones had a tailbone problem and Barbosa was sick. If those guys are out, we're going to see a little bit more Ron Price, a little bit more anybody really. TJ Warren, Devin Booker are going to play absolute shit tons of minutes, and you're going to see a lot of Tyler Euler. So let's start with him. He has gone up to 5,400. So FanDuel's gone, we're not dealing with this. We don't want a problem here. Let's bump him. And DraftKings gone, same thing, 5,700 for him. That doesn't mean that he's a terrible play. It is a brilliant, brilliant matchup for him. He had 41 in that last game where he started in 39 minutes. And honestly, if Barbosa's out, he's going to have to play these minutes. Knight's not playing. Ronnie Price, what's the point of sitting guys out to play Ronnie Price big minutes? Now, Ulis is going to have an opportunity. Alfred Payton is not a huge point guard that's going to really affect him in terms of size-wise. Ulis at 57 and 54, I think he's a really, really good play still. As for Lord Alfred, he is at 7,200. Now, he gets a good matchup here. I'm not sure I've been totally locked in on him at that price tag. 7,200 and 78 on DraftKings is pretty much a no-go, but 72 on FanDuel has a little bit of appeal given the matchup. More a GPP type of a guy for Lord Alfred. Devin Booker at 6,900. He is going to shoot a lot. He's going to miss a lot. At 6,900, I think that's a pretty good price for him for cash games. I feel pretty confident at 7,200 on DraftKings again with the way that it's scored over there. I think there is some value in Devin Booker there. Evan Fournier is at 55. I like this spot for Fournier. It's going to be up and down pace-wise. Booker's one of the worst wing defenders in the NBA, so Fournier has an opportunity here at 5,500. I think he'll be low-owned, and there is definitely some value there. CJ Watson, Hazonia, Barbosa. No, I'm not talking myself into that. Terrence Ross at 4,100 has been terrible. 14 points over the last 5. The minutes are fine. The production's terrible. You only want to use him in GPPs, and that is it. It looks like a great matchup. We've been saying that for weeks, and not much has been happening with Terry. But at some point, he's going to hit shots, and something's going to happen. I'm just not feeling it here. It's definitely not a cash play. I love TJ Warren though. 6,300. He's going to get minutes. He's going to get shots. He played 41 minutes and had 41 points in the last game. You should be looking at 35 minutes most nights that he's out there, potentially even getting to 40, especially if Jones isn't right to go. 6,300 for TJ. Fine. He's at 66 on DraftKings. Totally fine as well. Can really see him being a useful option for the majority of the way here. As a Gordon at 5,600. Scalabissiere tore up Marquise Chris, so there's a real opportunity here for Aaron. At 5,600, yeah, he was terrible today, but he could have a big one. So I like him as a GPP play. I wouldn't be looking at him in cash, but this is a really good opportunity. It's a good opportunity for Chris as well at 5,300 on DraftKings, and especially at 48 on FanDuel, where there's great upside. But his problem, as we all know, is staying on the court. Can he stay for 33 minutes? If he does, then he's going to smash through that value. So if you feel confident about him staying on the court, then have a look at him at 4,800, because there is going to be value there, no doubt about that. The other power forwards, there's nothing to talk about. At center, Alan Williams is at 5,800. I feel pretty good about Williams getting close to 30 on most nights, so he is a good play there. He's at 63 on DraftKings. I feel good about him exceeding 30, especially in this matchup. So this is a good opportunity for him. Nikola Vucevic at 7,700, a really good spot for him. Yes, he struggled against the Warriors, as did the whole team, but big men against Phoenix, it's a really good opportunity. So I like Vuce here. Especially where he's on a DraftKings at 7,400, a ton of value in that. No other centers. I'm not going to worry about Alex Len or Bismack Biyombo. All right, before we get into these last games, some more questions come in. John says, are you surprised some teams are shutting down play? John, I discussed that a lot yesterday. Yes, it's frustrating to me. And Lamb says, are you following March Madness? And if so, who do you have in the finals? I have literally no idea. I watched a few of the games today. I couldn't tell you. Sorry, Lamb. I'm watching it. I watch it just to see the NBA prospects. No idea about the teams. Don't really follow it at all during the season. So you're coming to the wrong spot if you're asking me. I did not fill out a bracket. I've got absolutely no idea who is going to win or be in the Final Four. I don't have a pick at all. So there you go. Last game of the night, Milwaukee and the Lakers. The Bucks are favored by 7. The total is 213.5. Larry Nance and Uncle P are both listed as probable. I don't know whether Nick Young is going to play at all, given the Lakers' move towards players who actually might help them in the future. So we don't know. At this point, I've got Young not playing, but who knows what they're going to do as we move forward. Let's talk about the point guards. I don't know whether they're going to keep D'Angelo Russell on the bench. It's been an absolute disaster doing that. And at 6,100, if they decide they're going to keep doing that, you don't want anything to do with D'Angelo Russell. In fact, this matchup is such a shit one anyway that it'd be really hard to consider him as a guy to use regardless. Same at Jordy Clarkson at 5,600. I would feel okay about him if they remain keeping him starting, but I don't think it's an absolute lock for him to smash through value, and he's up to 6,000 on DraftKings, which makes it even less appealing. Now for the Bucks point guards, pretty much the pattern has been whoever comes off the bench plays more minutes. In the last game, that was Dellavedova. Will it be him or Brogdon in this game? It's 3,700 for Delly. I don't see the upside. 5,000 for Brogdon. I don't actually see the upside there either. So I think that the point guards in this game are pretty much a write-off. At shooting guard, Yanni is at 10,500. His numbers have not been good, but this is a brilliant opportunity for him to go bananas. I like this for Yanni. Yeah, probably feel a little bit better about him than, say, Harden at 11.8. So this is a good spot where he can easily get 50. He's averaged 50 against the Lakers in the last 3 games, and he's at 99 on DraftKings, a pretty decent spot as a high-priced player to use under Antetokounmpo there. Small forward Brandon Ingram's at 4,400 on FanDuel. I continue to like that price. I continue to dislike the 5,000 that he's out on DraftKings, although he did exceed it in the last game. But I like Ingram a lot over on FanDuel at that price tag, while Chrissy Middleton continues to be too high. 6,600 is too high for middles. 4,200 for Tone Snell. Nah, let's get on. Julius Randle, 6,800. Randle had 43 points in the last game. He's also had a 49-pointer in the last 5. He's also had a 19-point game. So he is up and down. This matchup is a positive one against the Bucks. Will Randle respond? It's hard to know. I don't have any trust in him doing it. At this point, he is just a GPP sort of a player. Same on DraftKings, but even more so. It's 7,400. That's too high. Larry Nance played 8 minutes in the last game. I'm not really interested in getting stuck into him, while Johnny Henson's minutes, as is always the pattern, start off big, and each game, as you realize he's terrible, the minutes keep coming down, and that's been the way it's been going here. No one is going to be on Ivica Zubac, I don't think, because he was terrible. He had 6 points in 11 minutes in the last game. This is a good matchup for Zubac. He's at 4,100. I don't think he's going to get himself into as much foul trouble, so I think that he is a good way to differentiate yourself in GPP tournaments at 4,100. If he plays 28 minutes, he is smashing through that. He's probably getting close to 30 in those sort of minutes. I like that. At 54 on DraftKings, I'm definitely not as keen, but at 41 on FanDuel, it's really hard to ignore. Greggy Munro at 6,500 just is a little bit too high, but at 59 for Munro on DraftKings, great matchup. I like him, but I don't trust Kid enough to say that Munro is a cash play. He's more of a GPP option at this point. All right, let's talk picks of the day before we wrap up the show. On FanDuel, Reggie Jackson at 49, Ulis at 54, and they're the point guards. Geordie Crawford 35, Avery Bradley 64, and Jim Harden 11-8. At small forward, Shabazz Muhammad 37, TJ Warren 63, and Jim Butler at 87. At power forward, Nikola Mirotic 43, Toby Harris 55, and Tony Davis 11-2. And at center, Zubac is at 41, Alan Williams 58, and Boogie's at 9-4. On DraftKings, Rozier 3,000, Ulis 57, and Yanni at 9-9. Marcus Smart 49, Devin Booker 72, and Harden 11-8. Small forward, Shabazz at 37, Crowder 54. Power forward, Nikola Mirotic 43, Toby Harris 59, and Boogie at 9-8. And at centre, Robin Lopez 4,000, Alan Williams 63, and Hassan Whiteside 8,100. For the Aussies on Moneyball, Barea 37, Ulis 55, Jordan Crawford 37, Avery Bradley 56, and Jimmy Harden 12. At small forward, Shabazz at 35, Warren at 61, and Adetokounmpo at 9-9. For the power forwards, Mirotic 41, Alan Williams 53, and Davis at 11-7. And at centre, Zubac 41, Horford 65, and Boogie at 9-7. And on Draft Stars, Tyler Ulis is minimum price 5,000. If he is not in every single lineup on Draft Stars, I think you're doing it wrong. Rajon Rondo 10-9, and that's all the point guards. Shabazz Muhammad 50-50. Jezelyn 10-9, and Braddles Beal 14-4-50. At small forward, Denzel Valentine 62, Šarić at 12-0-50, and Yanni at 19-8. Power forward, Marquise Chris 82, Boogie 17-5, and at centre, Zubac at 75, Alan Williams 9-9-50, and Karl Anthony Towns 18-8. Questions before we go. Last one from Ben Perry. Who's my MVP this year? Jim, Russ, or option 3? It's still Jim to me. Russ is putting together a pretty compelling case, but it's still Jim. I go with Harden as my MVP pick. And that does it for today's show. Leave a review if you do like the show. Over on iTunes, 5 stars would be awesome. Thank you. That would be much appreciated. Follow me on Twitter at redrock_bball. I'm on a goal to get to 10,000 by the end of the season. I think I might struggle to get there, but I'd love to get to that 10,000 follower mark. So, hey, tell your friends to follow me. I know most of you are loath to do that, but I would really appreciate spreading the show and telling people about it. Subscribe. Follow Basketball Monster. Check us out over at basketballmonster.com. We are done here, guys. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya. Russell Westbrook